Hello and welcome to our live broadcast today from Business at Llanfihlomenau. Croeso cynnes a diolch am ymuno. Yn Saesneg fydd y sgwrs heddiw, ond mae croeso I chi gyfrannu yn Gymraeg neu yn Saesneg. So I'm Sue Owen and I'm joined here today by Rhianwen. Would you like to introduce yourself, please, Rhianwen?
Hello, diolch Sue. I'm responsible for the delivery of apprenticeships in Group Llanfihlomenau. If you're not sure what Group Llanfihlomenau is, it's the name for the group, which includes Business at Llanfihlomenau, Coleg Menau, Coleg Llandrillo, and Coleg Meirion Dwyfor. And I'm really glad to be here today to talk about what we can offer for employers and individuals who are thinking about recruitment and training.
So, thanks, Rhianwen. So we're going to chat a bit today about apprenticeships and how business have adapted their offer due to COVID, how you can go about employing an apprentice if you are in the business of taking on new staff, and how you can sign up your new and existing staff to their next progression level in their exciting apprenticeship journey. So we're going to focus today mainly about health and social care, but what we're discussing is mostly relevant to any sector if you're recruiting and thinking of taking on an apprentice or wanting to sign up new and existing staff to the apprentice scheme. Although we're in lockdown, it's good to see that employers are still advertising for staff and are keen for the staff to progress in their careers through training. There are various funding streams and schemes available to businesses to help them navigate these difficult times. However, some employers out there may not have considered taking on an apprentice. So, Rhianwen, I'm going to ask you if you could briefly explain, please, what is an apprenticeship?
Yeah, no problem. An apprentice is employed by an organisation to do a real job while they're studying for a formal nationally recognised qualification. And throughout the apprenticeship, they'll be receiving training from both their employer and from the college. So an apprenticeship is a suite of qualifications which includes a main qualification. So for health and social care, these would be the health and social care core and practice qualifications, and then apprentices also get a chance to improve and achieve qualifications in transferable skills such as literacy, numeracy, and digital literacy for some frameworks. So it's a good chance really to kind of polish up on those if you didn't do so well in school, kind of thing. Apprenticeships take between 1 to 4 years to complete, depending on the route and the level of the apprenticeship. And they range from a foundation apprenticeship at level 2 through to a higher apprenticeship at levels 4 or 5. And it's a really good deal for the apprentice because apprenticeships combine practical training in a job with study, and as an apprentice, they get to work alongside experienced staff in the workplace. They gain job-specific skills, gain qualifications that are nationally recognised. In most cases, they get time off to study. Summertime college, there's 1 day a week, and that's at the employer's discretion. But they are earning a wage, and they'll also get holiday pay. So apprenticeships can have a really positive impact on any business and the wider economy throughout Wales. And I think they'll become increasingly important in helping businesses recover after COVID.
Okay, great. So sounds good so far. And what type of apprenticeships are available? And more importantly, what's the cost to the employer?
Well, yeah, cost is always important, but Wales has a highly successful apprenticeship programme built in partnership with Welsh businesses, and we focus on providing great quality and the right skills pathways and the right level of support to achieve that economic durability. But what's even better is that in Wales, apprenticeships are free. Of course, apprentices are employed, so the employer will have to pay at least the minimum wage for the apprentice, and we'd also expect the employer to be supporting their learning, to invest in the apprentice for the benefit of their business. But the training that the college or the training provider provides is free, no cost to the employer. And I know today we're mainly talking about health and social care, and at the moment we're running a campaign to raise awareness in this area, a really important area. And I know there's been a lot of publicity on TV, and you know, we can't emphasize enough how important this is. But we, as well as health and social care, we also offer apprenticeships in things like accounting, project management, social media and digital marketing, which is really important in these COVID times. A lot of businesses have had to switch to do more over social media. Construction and engineering, again, really busy sectors at the moment. Business admin, hairdressing, motor vehicle, accounting, I've said already, ICT, agriculture, hospitality, childcare. Pretty much, if you can think of the sector, there's an apprenticeship route to fit in there. But if you're an employer, apprenticeships give you a really cost-effective way to recruit new staff. You cover the apprentice's wage, and we cover the apprentice's cost of training. Apprenticeships are also a great way for any employer to create a pool of talent with a skilled, qualified workforce. You can use apprenticeships to fill any skills gaps, meet demands of now and the future, and they can help you grow your business, whether you're choosing to recruit new staff, retrain your existing staff, or just move staff around to cope with the changing times that we find ourselves in. And if you're new to apprenticeships and you've not really thought about taking on an apprentice before, then we'd be more than happy to discuss with you what your specific needs are as a business, to advise you on the right level and pathway for your business and the apprentice, so that you get the absolute best out of the apprenticeship experience.
That's great. So all in all, that's pretty comprehensive. So most employers in almost any sector could take on an apprentice to fill a vacancy they may now have. And employers could also encourage existing staff to sign up today to do the next level of apprenticeship to help them progress in their careers, whilst at the same time helping to improve the standard of care provided in their homes. But if I were one of these employers looking to take on an apprentice, or wanting to sign up my staff member to the apprenticeship scheme, do I have to do this at a particular time of year, or when do apprenticeships actually start?
Well, there is no set date really, especially for health and social care. Some of apprenticeships are what we call roll on, roll off, which means that they can start on the first day of employment and finish whenever the learner finishes their learning. That's not to mean they lose their job. They hopefully carry on in their job when they finish their apprenticeship. It's just that the training finishes when the learner's finished. However, we do have some training routes where apprenticeships are delivered via day release, which means that the learner needs to attend college 1 day per week, or sometimes on a block release basis on set dates. And they tend to start in September each year. So it very much depends on the apprenticeship that you choose. But, you know, like I said, for health and social care apprenticeships, these are flexible. They can start on the first day when you take somebody new on, or the date that you sign up an existing member of staff on the apprenticeship, and they are delivered really flexibly with minimal need to attend college.
And not all apprentices have to attend college on a day release, do they? And I know that some undertake 100% of their training in the workplace. So now that we have restrictions on employer visits, is the learning still taking place?
Yes, the learning very much is still taking place, and in many cases when we're not in lockdown, learners have been attended college, and the assessors have been continuing to visit the workplace settings to assess those learners. And since March last year, colleges have worked really hard to make sure that they are safe places for learning. The learning experience might look and feel a little bit different, but we do have really good COVID measures in place to ensure that learners and staff are safe. But we've had to make a lot of changes due to COVID, as everybody has, especially in health and social care settings. And that's around keeping learners and staff safe. For example, health and social care apprenticeships now, and since last March really, most of the teaching and learning takes place using digital and remote teaching methods. This keeps our kind of face-to-face contact with the learners within the parameters that it needs to be, depending on what the COVID guidance is. This is always tailored around the needs of the workplace setting, and it's and the need of the learner really, but the level of support is there to make sure that the learner achieves their qualification and does really well on their apprenticeship. So really it's important to remember that our experienced tutors are in regular contact with the learner and with their workplace settings at least once a month, to provide the training and to support the learner. And I think this is a really important point, because we know how hard it is at the moment to be working in care settings, and we feel that supporting learners and their employers is the most important thing for ensuring that they successfully achieve their qualifications. So, we hear a lot that employers are saying, oh, I can't do any training at the moment. It's well worth considering. If you have to train your staff, an apprenticeship will give you almost an extra pair of hands to support your staff, to be in regular touch with them, and to just act as that additional sounding board for their mental health and well-being, because that is part of the apprenticeship package. So if you do sign up for an apprenticeship in health and social care or any other routes, you can be assured that you will receive flexible, tailored training, but more importantly, regular support that can be a massive help with general well-being and mental health.
That's really good to know, Rhiannon. So do you have to be in a job role linked to a particular apprenticeship route? And are there any specific eligibility requirements for health and social care apprenticeships?
Well, you do need to be in a job role that matches the apprenticeship that you're working towards. It's obviously really important that the job that you're doing allows the apprentice to meet the requirements of the qualifications that they are studying towards. So, for example, you couldn't be working in an office all day and studying towards a plumbing apprenticeship. For some, you do need to be new to that job role in order to be eligible for that apprenticeship. But for health and social care, you don't have to be in a new to that job role, and an employer can put existing staff on an apprenticeship. But they do need to be at least 18 years old, and they need to have completed a 3-month probationary period in that workplace setting before they can actually start the apprenticeship. Although it's not necessary, because as I said earlier, we would support apprentices to achieve those more transferable skills in literacy and numeracy. If you've already achieved that level of literacy and numeracy in GCSEs, or even O levels, going back further, then we could use those so that you don't have to do those qualifications again. But generally, anybody in a health and social care setting, subject to a discussion with us, could start their apprenticeship and would be eligible.
Great. So how has the college adapted its apprenticeship offer due to COVID?
Well, I mentioned earlier, we've, as most businesses, we have had to change a lot since we went into lockdown back in March last year, and this is to just make sure that we can continue with the learners. We've been, we've had to make changes where assessors are not allowed to go out and visit the learners out in the workplace, because with apprenticeships there is this relationship between the college, the employer, and the learner, means we do have to make workplace visits. So we're now during lockdown, all of our learning is by remote and digital means. We can carry out assessments that have been already planned. Learners can come into college to undertake those. But we tend to kind of deliver our learning sessions over things like Google Meet and Zoom. Zoom has become a new word in our vocabulary since last March, and we're all, whether in a social setting or in a work or we're in a learning setting, used to communicating in this way. But it's just that regular contact, really, which is tailored, as I said, around what the learner needs. And we are using all the technology available to us to make that as easy as possible for everybody concerned.
Thanks very much. So if I was a carer in a care home but had been furloughed, could I still sign up to do an apprenticeship, or in fact, any other training?
Well, in theory, yes, you could. Staff who've been furloughed, including apprentices, are still allowed to undertake training. And at the beginning, we had quite a few apprentices who were furloughed. And, during that time, we had extra measures in place to keep in touch with those learners, agree with them what training they could be carrying on with, make sure that they were still engaged in learning and making progress with their apprenticeship, even though they're not actually in work, because you can be in training, but you can't be in work when you're on furlough, except more recently they've changed that to a flexible furlough arrangement, so you could be part in work and part furlough. But you can still start an apprenticeship if you are on furlough. There are still things you could be getting on with. And in health and social care, we've been very lucky that hardly any of our apprentices were put on furlough, although it was more likely that we had to adapt their learning because their shift patterns had changed. They had to take on additional duties. It's been an extremely challenging time for health and social care, as you know, Sue. Our tutors and assessors have worked really hard to adapt so that they continue to provide the right support for the apprentices in the health and social care settings during this really, really challenging and difficult time.
Thanks, Fiona, and that's really useful, and hopefully we will have given people who are looking to take on new staff some food for thought, and they might consider taking on an apprentice to fill a vacancy in future. So just to recap and to touch on the key points again then, firstly, apprenticeships in health and social care are on a roll-off basis with no set start date, so people can actually sign up today. Secondly, staff can train whilst on furlough. This includes apprenticeships as well as any other type of training course. Thirdly, the apprenticeship scheme is exceedingly flexible. We can tailor your apprenticeship precisely to the needs of your workplace. And lastly, all apprenticeship training is free in Wales. Thank you, Rhianwen, for telling us about the apprenticeship scheme currently available and how Business Act has adapted its offer to suit the current climate. If you are interested in finding out more about how to sign up to the apprenticeship scheme or any of our other fantastic training offers, everything from short courses, high-level business and management courses, to degree-level qualifications, please do contact me for an informal chat over a coffee, or alternatively a chat over the phone or email, of course. And if I'd just like to check that we've received any questions on our online chat. obviously it's too short a time for you all to think of a question. So if you do think of a question to ask to do with our training off today, then do please get in touch. I'd really welcome the opportunity to speak to you about any of your future training needs, even if this is something you don't plan to do for a few months yet. My contact details can be found at the bottom of the screen. So thank you very much for joining us today. See you next week on Wednesday at 1 o'clock as our usual slot for the next exciting Business Act Facebook Live. See you then.